Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Guy Ashley.
And I'm Stella Inger. Guilty. We have live team coverage tonight of the verdict in the trial of socialite Pamela Phillips, now convicted for plotting the 1996 murder of her husband Gary Triano right outside the La Paloma Country Club.
We'll tell you the one thing that convinced the jury to give her a double guilty verdict. But first, let's get out to Corey Marshall, who has a look at why Phillips won't be getting the death penalty.
Guy and Stella, quiet cries of joy and justice. Triano's family says today's verdict has been a long time coming. Understandably, though, they're not ready to talk just yet. After 13 hours of deliberation and 7 weeks of testimony, the jury reached a verdict in the Pamela Phillips murder-for-hire trial.
To find the defendant, Pamela Ann Phillips, guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder as alleged in count 1 of the indictment. To find the defendant, Pamela Ann Phillips, guilty of first-degree murder as alleged in count 2 of the indictment.
Guilty on both counts. Seconds after she heard the verdict, Phillips shook her head, looking directly into the camera, something that has become trademark for Phillips since the start of the trial. It's something the prosecution picked up on, too.
I think that kind of her mannerisms in trial went right along with the reasons and the reasons that she felt that she could do this and get away with it.
Nearly 18 years after Tucson businessman Gary Triano's murder, prosecutors firmly believe justice has been served. Triano's family share that sentiment.
They were just really relieved. They were very grateful to the jury's hard work. They felt all along that this was going to be the outcome.
Phillips' attorneys say they will file an appeal immediately, believing in not only Phillips' innocence, but convicted hitman Ronald Young's innocence as well.
And we have now 2 people who are going to be serving in prison for something they didn't do.
After 8 weeks of trial, though, 2 years of collecting this evidence, you still think Ron Young and Pamela Phillips are still innocent?
They're innocent.
Now, sentencing is set for May 22nd. As you heard just off the top of the newscast, as Guy and Stella said, Phillips will not face the death penalty. That's because she was extradited from Austria as part of the treaty with the U.S. and that country. They would not release anyone to the U.S. that would face the death penalty. Now, we've heard throughout the trial it's been called contentious, complicated at times. Valerie, you spoke with a detective who really broke down what he says sealed the deal for prosecution.
James Gamber was the lead investigator in this case. And, you know, this was once labeled a cold case, not for a lack of evidence. It took time, years in fact, to sift through all the layers of evidence. The prosecution laid it all out, emails, phone calls, and financial records that Ron Young conveniently kept and detectives got their hands on. Gamber connected the dots to Phillips after following a money trail that Gamber believes helped convince this jury as it did in the Ron Young trial.
Once everything was laid out and they were able to go through, you know, the emails, the financial records, the phone calls, and actually look at the FedEx records, and then they could see the trail of money and the conversations about the murder, they were convinced.
Number 11.
Now a guilty verdict, first for Young and 18 years later for Phillips. I asked Gamber his reaction to the verdict, and he said only this. The Triano family has waited a long time for this guilty verdict, and they were very tolerant during the process. Reporting live from downtown, Valerie Cavazos, KGUN-9 on your side.